software you need on your computers to get the job done. The whole rest of the cost is in your salaries and benefits. People. That's why when I know how much my budget is, I know what my head count is. People. So what's the largest form of visible waste in product development? Clearly, underutilization of my people. Here's the idea. Let's say I hire you in to do testing. I pay you 100% salary to do testing. And there's kind of an assumption, right, that you should be testing 100% of your available time. Because if you're not, it would seem like an underutilization of the tester. Now, my management probably measures me on how utilized I keep you. So if I hire you and I assign you to a project, and that project needs you 60% of your time, and I stop there, it looks like there's a 40% underutilization of my tester. So I'm going to look pretty bad, and so that's not going to work. You know how I'm going to solve this problem, right? If one project needs you 60% of your time, say hi to project number 2. Now, by the way, they need you 30% of your time. Cool, so now I got you up to 90%. Hey, but there's still 10% there. Well, it works so well with 2 projects. Say hi to project number 3. Clever me. I have eliminated idle tester waste. I have eliminated one form of waste. Remember, we were just saying, oftentimes as one form of waste goes down, another form of waste goes exactly the other direction. Let's see what goes the other direction. Let's apply that strategy to the 4x100 meter relay race at the Olympics. The strategy of let's keep them 100% busy. If I apply that strategy to that race, my first observation of that race, that is a very inefficient race. No, it is. I pay these ladies 100% salary to run. Each one runs 25% of the time. No, clearly I have a 75% underutilization of my runners. Well, that won't do. I pay them 100% salary. They should run 100% of the time. Of course, they're going to look at me and go, what would you like me to do when I'm not carrying the baton? I don't know. Why don't you like run up and down the stands or something? No, I pay them to run, right? They should run. Actually, wait. I got a much better idea. You'll like this one better. There's another racetrack over there. They should run another race over there while they're waiting for the baton over here. Clever me. I have eliminated idle runner waste, completely missing the entire point. In that race, you don't win the gold medal because you kept the runners busy. You win the gold medal because you got the baton across the finish line first, leading to an important observation. We're watching the wrong thing. In that race, you don't watch the runners. You watch the baton. Now, if the baton ends up on the ground, you don't win the gold medal. Let's translate it all back and tie it together. The baton. That's the work. The work that has to flow across our collection of teams to get to the finish line. The finish line, of course, is delivery to the customer. That's the only thing that matters. So what we need to do is flow that work across the system, is how I refer to it. The system being the collection of teams you put together in order to get the job done. If the baton ends up on the ground, that's the work that just got blocked. Usually sounds like this. My team's blocked. We can't move forward because I'm waiting on your team to do something. Until your team does this, we're blocked. Take our baton, walk over here, put it in their queue. That is the inventory that's building up all over product development. All that blocked work that's sitting in queues waiting for people to work on it, batons all over the place. And at scale, in most companies that I visit, this problem is so bad that at scale, most of these companies, 90% of the time or more, the work isn't moving. Imagine, if you will, I take a stopwatch out of my pocket. I mean, you should be freaked out by now, so I need to make sure I freak you out by the time I'm done. You take the stopwatch out of your pocket, the customer asks you to work on the feature. You say yes, we're going to do it. Click. The customer asked, you said yes, click happened. You don't get to click the stopwatch again until you cross the finish line and deliver it. Click. What I just said was in most companies that I visit where we do a form of value stream mapping to see how the work is flowing, from click to click, 90% of that time the work wasn't moving, wasn't being worked on at all, it was sitting as inventory in a queue. Now think of how baffled I am when I go into some of these large companies and some manager pulls me aside and says this, I sure hope when you're done you'll help my teams be 10% more efficient at applying Scrum. I'm like, seriously? That's the problem you'd like me to help you solve? But do the math with me. If 90% of the time the work isn't moving, that means 10% of the time the teams are doing value-adding work. If you squeezed a 10% improvement out of the 10% of the time they're doing value-adding work, you would move the needle precisely 1%. If you squeeze 10% of the waste out of the system for how we structure our teams at scale to do Scrum, you'd instantly get a 9% improvement. They're watching the wrong thing. The principle is it's all about the idle work, not about the idle workers. But that's exactly the opposite of what most companies do. Their goal, optimize utilization. The result of that, sub-optimize flow. Let me show you why. Last piece. I borrowed the graph from queuing theory. You don't need to know anything about queuing theory to know that the graph is correct. Here's the point. All you have to do is on a computer, right? What happens when you run your computer at 100% CPU, 100% memory utilization? What happens in that machine? Yeah, nothing happens on that machine, right? Technically the term is thrashing, right? Nothing's going on. And the worst thing you can do in that state is to wait. Because literally it could take an eternity for anything to finish. You moved into the hot queue state. So when you're in that state, the only thing you can reasonably do is either open up Task Manager, start killing jobs, or just reboot. Meaning, when you find yourself in the high queue state, you typically have to take drastic action to get out of the high queue state. That's why people who run server farms for a living know you never run your servers above 80% utilization. Look at the curve. I'll do the math for you. The math is simple. Go from 80 to 85 in that curve. Excuse me, 80 to 90% on that curve, double the queue size. Go from 90 to 95, double the queue size again. 95 up to 100, double it again. You don't want to be anywhere near that curve. You know it's true. If you went into Starbucks this morning on your way in, and they were 80% utilized, you had 3 people in queue in front of you. We can all do the math. See, there's 3 people in front of me. It's taking them about 2 minutes per person. Okay, I'll wait. You go in and they're 99% utilized. There's 19 people in front of you. You do that math again. You turn around. You walk out. Now we're finally there. Queue size equals cost of delay. One form of waste goes down. Another form of waste goes up. I promise you, when you pull out that economic framework and you compare these in the same units of measure, life cycle profits, they are not even comparable. A little bit of slack in your system, underutilization of your people, measured in tens of thousands of dollars. I asked you, I delay your project by 1 month, what's the cost of that? For many of you, that's hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars. We're watching the wrong thing. We optimize the wrong variable. So yeah, I see organizations doing great team level Scrum. They organize themselves so poorly, it's a miracle they get anything done. Even with great teams, because the flow in their organization is so horrible. So what I'm looking for, so a concept I call fast, flexible flow. That's my goal, and that's what I optimize for. The idea of, there's click to click on the stopwatch. That's you, that's your organization. There's your inputs, new ideas, bug fixes. The results you have to produce. How did you organize those teams inside that box to get good flow, where you had good end-to-end time and process or cycle time? So, optimize for fast, flexible flow, not for how busy you keep your people. Planning has its own set of principles. I'm not going to go through all of those, but when I watch organizations do planning, oftentimes it's the least agile-like thing I can ever imagine. Yet downstream, they're trying to tell everybody to be agile-like. So, things, you're not going to get the plans right up front. Let's see if you agree with this. On the first day of a brand new project, that's the day you'll have the worst possible knowledge you'll ever have of that project. Do you agree with that? I mean, shouldn't I assume every subsequent day you guys work on the project, you're going to be at least a little bit smarter, not a little bit dumber? You got to go like this. Yeah. So you're not going to get it right up front. Anybody who thinks they get all the plans right up front is deluding themselves. On the day you have the worst possible knowledge, give me the perfect unchanging plan. Not very likely. You get the idea. But we said don't avoid upfront planning. Said upfront planning should be helpful, just not excessive. Agile isn't anti-upfront planning. What, you think you just like magically showed up at sprint 1 and the product backlog appeared, they're all groomed and ready for you to use? Did the trolls meet you there and just hand it off? I mean, yeah, you did some upfront planning before you got to sprint 1. Did you do all the planning that you might have done in a traditional project? No, because that would have been excessive. And you get the idea. Oh, sorry. Let's go to the second part. What about Agile through the value chain? This is what I mean by the value chain, right? Here's us, typically, the development, the IT organization, but we're surrounded by a lot of other groups, especially if you're in a larger company, and maybe they're not Agile. What kind of problems does that cause? Well, think about an obvious one. What if, where does your system end? Remember fast, flexible flow, inputs here, output there? Is your output in production, or do you have to hand it off to another team? Maybe a DevOps team. What if they march to the beat of a different drum? Great, now what we're doing is collecting inventory right here because these guys haven't pushed it into production. Can you truly claim the benefits of agility if every 2 weeks you produce world-class working software and have absolutely no ability to get it into production? Hard to claim that you've achieved the values of Agile. How about this? This is the big disconnect I see, right? So think about this with internal management. Most companies try to work this way. Give me the complete requirements doc up front, send it around for sign-off, that becomes our baseline doc, then put together the plan for how we're going to design, build, and test this thing. Then we're told, go do Agile there. Wow. I kind of feel like this guy. Let me be on both sides of the fence at the same time. Let's be Agile and not be Agile at the same time. Yeah, I don't think so, right? I mean, talk about a huge disconnect. Yeah, you guys down in development, feel free to go off and do Agile, but we up here in management, we're going to operate in the same way we always historically operated, and therefore you will be required to give me all the same artifacts that you typically give me in order for me to approve your project. Good luck. A misalignment with sales. You ever had this happen? Salesperson comes back with a napkin, slaps it down on the table. I actually had this happen to me 25 years ago. That's not the napkin. I made that one up, but he did come in. He went to a bar, comes back the next day, slaps the napkin down on the table. It's got a date at the bottom of the napkin. I said, what's the date? He said, I sold this last night at the pub, and that's the date you have to deliver. I'm like, where'd you get the date from? He's like, well, that's the date they need it. Put me in a kind of a foul mood. I think I said something like, you know what? You should never go to a bar to pick up a date or give out a date.